Hello everyone, this is Dimitri from NodePath, and recently I talked with a person on Reddit about how we ported our Unity game over to the Godot engine, and they were also interested in the idea, but they were a little bit uncertain about how it works with referencing different kinds of nodes, especially on newly instantiated objects. So this is a great opportunity for us to show you how we are doing it, because we have found a relatively nice workflow which keeps also in mind clean coding principles so that we have less maintenance effort, less bugs potentially, and also scalability when we want to create new features. It is usually very easy to implement those. If you think that's interesting, then stay tuned because we're going straight to the tutorial. So this is the setup that we're going to be using. Basically this is going to be a player, and on pressing space it's going to spawn an NPC, and the NPC has a particle system. We have two different particle systems, and when we create this new instance we determine which one is going to play, either the blue one or the red one. Let's go to Godot and check out how the scenes and everything is set up. Our main scene is called World, and we just have the player inside of it. The player has its own script, which is then determining which scene is the NPC scene and can instantiate that later. We can switch over to the NPC scene, and here we have a bit of a more complicated setup. Basically the NPC has again its own script, and it has two particle systems, Great and Awesome. So let's trigger the Awesome one. It's this blue one that we saw earlier, and we trigger the Great particle system, and it's a red one that's rotating. This way we can see which one is currently turned on. Let's go through the player's script step by step. Basically we have the packed scene, which is the way that we can take another scene to be able to later instantiate it, and we use the export attribute so that we can map it from within the editor. Then we have in the process just a simple if statement that checks if we have pressed space or enter or anything, and we create the NPC. And this is the important part now. As I showed you earlier, we added to the NPC scene the script, which is called NPC, so we can use that to directly reference this in the instantiation process. Basically, we can directly say here that the new scene is gonna be of type NPC, and this allows us then later to access all of the variables and functions which are used by the script. So, using this scene here, we have a new instance of this NPC node. In order for the node to be visible inside of the scene, we set up the position. Basically, we just set the global position to the global position of the player, plus a little bit to the right. And we add this as a child of the root of the tree. This is a very basic setup that we could potentially also put into another function, but this is also not what we are really focusing here. What we really want to do is, when creating the instance, to specify the specific logic that we want to have for our game, which is in our case the two particle systems. And for that, we're going to go to the initialize NPC area. As you see, we only need to call one function here, initialize, and it can trigger all of the behavior that we wanted to have on initialization. It can be awesome, it can be great, or it can be both. Or it can be both. So let's jump into this initialization function to see what it does specifically inside. For starters, what we are doing here usually is create some spawn settings. So for example, here we have NPC spawn settings as a parameter, because it is very good to have a clear set of parameters that you can pass into the objects. The player now only needs to know that the NPC can be awesome or great. It doesn't need to care how the nodes are referenced. It doesn't need to care about the deeper details. The player just wants to know, okay, this is how I initialize it, and the NPC itself knows which nodes are relevant for these settings. Now we are gonna check how we initialize the nodes inside of this initialization method. Basically, there are two ways to reference nodes with Godot and C#. Number one is the direct path method, where you can just define a string, and this is basically the path inside of the tree inside Godot. So as you see here, we have grade being directly under it. If we had an additional some kind of node here called whatever, and we wanted to access that inside of the script, we would have to do dot slash defining the root, grade, and then whatever, so that we can reference this node here. This method of referencing has a great drawback. When you rename the node, unfortunately, it doesn't carry over to the script. So now that we renamed great to very great, the reference doesn't carry over. If we would try to load this, it would load null, and accessing this variable would result in an error. There is a better method of referencing nodes here, and that's called NodePath. Basically, what you do is have a NodePath variable, we call this awesome particles path, and you export this on your object. Now we go over to Godot, and as you see, NPC has a variable here which is exposed, awesome particles path. We're gonna reset it. What's great about this variable is that when you click on it, it shows you the tree and you can directly specify the node that you want to have. And what happens if I rename now awesome into very awesome? As you see, the reference is kept. The path would be still valid, and when you would load the node, it would still be valid and there would not be null returned. So this is an awesome way to reference paths. Let's go back to our scripts. And now that we have both of these particles referenced, we can use the settings that we passed over on the onInitialize method, and we can use them to directly influence the emitting of the particles. So just to test it out, let's change the spawn settings from awesome to great equals true, and we can run the game. Now when we press space, the red particles appear. We can try out both at the same time. So now we have both here, and pressing space triggers both of the particles to spawn. For us, we have decided that it's best practice to only reference nodes which are under your own node. So basically the NPC should only be referencing its own nodes, and never ever should there be a cross-reference from other nodes, because this has the potential to cause a lot of bugs and crashes. Imagine, for example, referencing a node on another node that at some point is gonna be destroyed. And then you have another reference accessing any kind of variable or function, and that would immediately cause the game to crash, unless it's try catch, but you know what I mean. We didn't touch here also the topic of events. If you're interested in that, then leave a comment below, or any kind of other topic that would be interested for you to see how we are doing that. Of course, we have only a little bit experience with the Godot engine up until now, but we have had to do a lot of porting over, so we got to see a little bit of the differences between the Unity engine and the Godot engine. And yeah, leave a like if you liked the video and find it helpful, and you can subscribe if you want to check out the new upcoming videos that we're going to be posting. And yeah, just see you around in the next one. Bye!